when Paul and I got married. And I was, about how we
well, good morning.
Good morning.
How wonderful it is if you did not join us for worship this at the first service. You missed a great sermon by our guest preacher this day, Emma Gray, who is a student at University of Minnesota and affiliated with the Lutheran Campus Ministry. This is our partnership at University of Minnesota that operates a campus ministry that engages young adults as they're in school there. They're going to tell you all about it, but it is just a real gift. Know that Prince of Peace includes regular annual support to Lutheran Campus Ministry in our budget. However, today there's opportunity to be additionally generous with their ministry and to help support them. And I know they've got some things to share about that with all of us this day. But Carol Flotten serves on the board of directors for Lutheran Campus Ministry. And I've known Carol since our kids were in school together, growing up here in Roseville, Brimhall Elementary, and all the way through the high school. And it's a joy to reconnect with you today. And we're grateful for your work, because it's not just students that make Lutheran Campus Ministry possible. It's a whole community of support. And so we give thanks for the generosity of your time and spirit in supporting this vital partnership that we have. So welcome, Carol. And I think you're going to kick things off. And you might notice there's a big head on the screen that we're going to hear from today as well. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So yeah, to reiterate the thanks for having us, inviting us, and just really grateful for your prayerful support and generosity for campus ministry. As Peter said, I am on the board, and I think just maybe I'll quick ask, what's our timing?
We have until 10:30.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're good.
You can even run a little long.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to also introduce this head up here, Kate Royer, who is the campus pastor at Lutheran Campus Ministry on the Twin Cities campus. And Kate has been our campus minister since about 2020, I believe. So it's been, no longer than that. No longer than that, 2010.
Yes.
Yeah, get my decades off here. And Lutheran Campus Ministry has actually been in existence on the campus for about 110 years. So it's had a long history in various forms through those years. And I think it's gone through, ups and downs and swings. And I think we're kind of on this upswing. We've been on quite a trajectory. After the pandemic, it kind of took a different flavor during those years on campus. And so anyway, we're really just thrilled to share some of our stories. And how many of you here, just show of hands, have had some connection to Lutheran Campus Ministry over the years? Okay, wonderful. We'll share some stories in a bit. But why don't we go ahead and kick off with Kate and a message that she has.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pastor Kate Royer-Welton, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Lutheran campus pastor at the University of Minnesota-Twin Cities. Thank you so much for welcoming students into your pulpits today on this LCM Sunday. The very good news is that we have preachers in 14 congregations this year. I think that's the most that we've ever had. And we are so grateful to you and your congregations for participating in this fun day. The challenge, of course, for adult forums is that I can't be everywhere. As the pastor of this ministry, it's my call and delight actually to get to interpret this ministry, to be in churches out in the synods, and to really proclaim the very good news about God's action on campus, and to tell the story about how close to 50 students tromp across campus in the rain and it's not so much the snow this year, but certainly the sleet, just to go to church on Wednesday nights, but also to explore what it means to live deeply into Christian community and life, and to discern together how to love their neighbors, the campus, and the world. So just a little bit about who we are as Lutheran Campus Ministry, Twin Cities. The heart of what we do is also the heart of the Lutheran understanding of faith and life. We're grounded in the unconditional grace of God and set free to love our neighbors. For LCM, for our students, that looks like a ministry that has long been grounded in word and sacrament. Our Wednesday night gathering we call Pause. And it's shaped, of course, the whole ministry by the input and leadership of student volunteers. And then those students help us discern what God's love looks like at any given moment in time, and staff support those students as they figure out what it means to really embody God's love on campus and in our community. So last year, that looked like abundant outreach on campus as our students were particularly passionate about proclaiming God's love for all people. Our t-shirts say, God loves everybody, no exceptions. It also looked like a whole bunch of grad student neighbors from the health sciences building, doctors and dentists that are in training, coming to eat a weekly free meal with us on Tuesday. That meal has grown in number and reach this year. And as we learn more about the students that come, we are learning a lot about the food insecurity that graduate students face. So more on that later. This year, though, in part growing out of conversations we had with emerging leaders last spring, are the ways that we're loving the campus and the world is addressing students' deep concern for the polarization and divisiveness in our world. Our students are passionate about being true to their values and standing up for those values, but in ways that are constructive and humble and compassionate. They don't have a lot of examples about what that looks like in the world. And so we shaped our spring break trip that we just returned from around conflict resolution and peacemaking in Northern Ireland. But on campus, we've also been engaging this topic and are gathering a small group of Christian and Muslim and Jewish students to talk about anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and how we can really be allies in the fight against hate and violence on campus and off. And though we always hope all of this work will continue, we also have to be open to discerning with new leaders and to where the Spirit might be leading us and how all of that intersects with student passions. We have to be willing to let some of these things die so that others might rise. We've almost now built back to the numbers that we had before the pandemic, and even more important than the numbers is that we've built back to a really robust culture of student leadership that's taken adjustments and sacrifice from both staff and students, but our community this spring is really thriving and as a whole is buoyant in a way that's very inspirational to me. Our current leaders seem deeply rooted in God's unconditional love for them, and they really love each other and the campus well too, so they're fun to be around. At this point, in the spring, for worship, we're averaging 45 to 50 students there on Wednesday nights, and then through service opportunities, retreats, immersions, small groups, and our weekly free meal, we probably reach 100 to 125 people on a weekly basis. So it's it's busy for the amount of staff we have and the amount of student leaders we have. And so now I'm going to invite your adult forum leaders to press pause here and see if there's any questions or clarifications that you might need from them at this point.
So any questions, comments, or from all of you, as Kate started her initial comments? Yeah.
Are you on both campuses?
Yeah, so physically housed on the Minneapolis campus, but you guys probably know how it works better than I do. There is a St. Paul sort of version of weekly gathering. And maybe do you wanna? Yeah. May all of you come up here. If you don't mind. For the
we have our Wednesday nights on East Bank, and there's people that come from West Bank and St. Paul, so they all come together on East Bank. But we also have a St. Paul Bible study that meets to do more outreach on that campus because those students in those dorms, often freshmen don't maybe know about us as well. So we have a Bible study there on Tuesdays. Yeah.
Great question. Any other questions at the moment?
Yeah. The numbers seem kind of small for like, it's all the thousands, tens of thousands at the U.
Yeah.
Do you like affiliate with any of the other denominations, campus ministries?
Yeah, so Kate is connected with various groups on campus. I think she'll go into this a bit in the next part of the video. Kind of the uniqueness of campus ministry, Lutheran campus ministry. And historically the numbers have been small. There's a lot of different approaches, I guess, to presence of religious groups on campus. And I think Kate will maybe address that just a bit to kind of answer your question. A great question, because it does seem small for the size of the university and how we might be also interacting with other folks. Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and keep going, and then we'll do a little bit more of our stories.
Okay, welcome back. Another thing to know about our ministry is that we're shaped by 3 expressions of what it means to live faithfully in our context, which is the University of Minnesota. These 3 expressions, students came up with them about 10 years ago. And we like to say, we say, be curious, be real, be community. And that's a way for me and for the students to describe how LCM speaks gospel into both the joy and the excitement, the heaviness and the anxiety of campus life. We think of these as expressions, but also as practices that form and shape us. So the first one, be curious. This is foundational for us and for the students who find us, and we really do embrace this as a spiritual practice. In this practice of being curious, the first thing to remember is that the university's motto is driven to discover, right? And we're contextually rooted there. It's essential that as a church, we provide space for students to explore their faith, to ask good questions, to ask questions about their spirituality and their explorations of religion, but also questions about their vocation and what God might be calling them into, questions about their identity, who God might be calling them into, right? This is such a fertile time for all of that, and curiosity helps us stay open to what God might be doing in student lives. The second thing is that academia, at its best, is a place where ideas can be exchanged and where people can disagree. We know that higher ed is in a bit of a pickle right now, and I think we can either throw up our hands and roll our eyes, or we can work with young adults and work on our own hearts to practice how to actually be curious about people that are different from us and ideas that we might not share or agree with. Curiosity is always a practice, and it helps us keep learning and growing, and to have a Christian community be a place that models that is really interesting and important, I think. The last thing that's important to know, well, there's a lot of things important to know, but the other thing I want to talk about is that in our context at the U, religious dialogue is really shaped by a very black and white way of looking at the world. The secular nature of the university means that spirituality and religion are privatized and kind of ignored as a component of the student experience, at least from the institution's perspective. And then on the other side of that, there's more conservative, non-denominational Christian groups that really invest quite heavily in the University of Minnesota because they see it as a fertile mission field. And their theology is a more exclusive, black and white, in and out kind of theology. I think that they would agree with me on that. So given this whole context, nurturing and embodying a practice of curiosity where questions are welcome, and we believe that God is active in them, that feels like an essential characteristic of our particular campus ministry, and also I think perhaps should be for any church in the 21st century. Our second attribute is be real. there is a culture of performance that leads to very high amounts of anxiety and stress for young adults right now. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but it's true. Students are performing all the time. They're trying to get good grades so they can get good jobs. So they're performing in their classrooms, in their dorm rooms, so they can, you know, have friends and be social. They're performing on social media, curating certain kinds of personas. Some even experience this with their families, not so much because they feel like they have to impress their parents, but because they don't want to let them down. They know how much families sacrifice to get them to this place, and they really want parents to think that they have it all together. And students need a place where they can shut that off, or at least table it for a minute, that compulsion to perform, and where they can name sin and brokenness as realities in their lives. At the end of each sermon, I remind them of their belovedness in God's eyes, and of the kind of nothing you can do to earn it nature of our faith. It's so countercultural and is one of the most important witnesses on campus, I think. And that's why we really start with Word and Sacrament, because these young adults have to somehow understand that there's nothing that they can do or not do that will change God's love for them, that God's love for them is really just there. And that's our starting point. That's where we learn how to love the world. The last thing I want to say about this, which is just an addendum, is it's no a secret that mental illness is also a reality that so many young adults live with, and particularly in the hard times of the years, or years when a majority of people are really struggling with anxiety and depression in particular. This part of our ministry, being real, can throw things off balance a little bit, but we've also discovered over time that when students are really able to name their struggles and kind of see them next to the rest of their lives rather than as a descriptor of their whole lives, and when they're able to name them honestly in a community of people, that just the community can be healing in and of itself, in a community where they can be honest about where they are. And the last thing, be community. I mean, this is a campus of 55,000 people. The campus as a culture is a fragmented and siloed culture because it has to be, it's so large. Some of you may have heard me tell this story because I like to tell it. But a few years ago, before the pandemic, actually, a student emailed me and said, "Dear Pastor Kate, I am not religious, but I am exceedingly lonely. Please tell me, how does one get involved in your organization?" So I met with this student and we talked about some of his struggles, and we made an on-ramp into the ministry for him with some really great student leaders. And this community, boy, they just loved him. And he grew to be a really important leader in our community, and then a leader in another community. And he was baptized a while ago, in part because of the belonging he felt with us. But when that belonging was mirrored in other Christian communities, and he started to feel a belonging with God, and that changed his life. And I guess it changed mine. Students will say that this belonging often is the most important part, or the most meaningful part of the ministry for it. And I used to kind of blow that off. But the longer I'm here, the more I understand belonging as essential to our capacity to love and to serve in the world. Like, if you haven't experienced belonging in your life with God or with others, a community where you can be your whole self and feel that love, where you can love and be loved, will change your life. It can transform your faith. You just can't underestimate its power. So, okay. I think that that's enough for now. I'm so grateful for your warm welcome of our ministry and the people who care about it. The slate of folks lined up in front of you. I hope you have a really great conversation with them. Let me know if you have any further questions that I can answer. My email's all over all of the materials. Thank you so much. God be with you.
Great. So that's Kate Royer, our pastor, campus pastor. And I think maybe what we'll do now is have, if you all would share, our students here, share a little bit about what drew them to campus ministry, maybe some of the things you've been involved in with campus ministry, and let us know a little bit about your story. Who'd like to start? Do you want to go, Sydney? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sydney. I'm a senior, so this is my last semester with LCM, which is very sad. But I used to walk by the Grace University Church where we worship all the time when I was a freshman. And I was a freshman during 2020, so the COVID year. And they had like all these little like signs out front that said, I go to church because I doubt. I go to church because I want community. And I don't know, I thought it seemed like a really cool place. And then I found out it was an ELCA Lutheran church, which is what I grew up in. Yeah, and so I started going, and I immediately fell in love with the people and with the just warm environment of acceptance and belonging that I really had not encountered yet in like a college community. And yeah, now this is my 3rd year being a leader, so I love it.
Do you want to say a little bit about what being a leader?
Oh yeah. So we have, I think right now we have somewhere from 15 to 20 leaders. I'm not 100% sure. But we meet together for an hour before worship every Wednesday, and we talk about what we want to do. We talk about outreach opportunities. We talk about community building opportunities. I specifically work in the kitchen a lot. So I prep meals for the leaders to eat. We always eat in community together. And then I also help we do community meals where we have just bigger topics that we all want to talk about with either Pastor Kate or one of our seminary interns that work with us. Yeah, so we just all gather together, and like Emma mentioned in her sermon too, we always check in with each other, and we always say our prayer requests, and we pray together and lift everyone up as they need it.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Do you want to share, Jacob?
I'll share.
Okay, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I discovered LCM about a year ago when I was a sophomore. I'm a junior now. Yeah, I pretty much visited the Sunday service, just a random. I believe this was actually during Lent season, so I decided like, hey, I want to get more involved with church, and I want to kind of get back into the habit of going to church again, especially just how busy I was with school. I wanted to make that into like a weekly occurrence. But yeah, I went to the Sunday service, and just coincidentally, Pastor Kate, she was preaching that one Sunday just for the general confirmation, and she talked about LCM. She kind of spoke about kind of what it's about, like how the Wednesdays kind of play out during service, and how close knit the community is. And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I would like to kind of experience that too. So I went to pause that Wednesday service. That's kind of the name of it. Gives us a chance to kind of relax and during the week, and give us a space to kind of take a break from our busy lives. Yeah, and it's just it's a good way to interact with people good people, you know, who have shared the similar interests and experiencing God's love. And yeah, I just knew that like right away, the first service, I was like, this is something that I want to really get involved in and contribute to. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. This last semester is my first semester of leadership, and kind of what I do as a leader is I'm involved in BFED, our weekly free meal every Tuesday. So get close to 50 to 70 people each week, a lot of medical students. And I, help clean up, serve soup, really interact with people. We have people in all backgrounds. They aren't non-religious. They can be other, religions too, but just creating that space for anybody and everybody to come is very, very important to me. So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I did not grow up Lutheran. I grew up in the church, but I was at a non-denominational church growing up and was in youth group. And then got to college and wanted to find a church to go to. I had kind of a list in my phone of some cool ones that I had heard of, but it was one of my first couple of weeks and I was already swamped with school. And so I had just been talking to a friend of mine that I wanted to try to find a church to go to, and happened to be walking through Kaufman, our student union, and a billboard flashed to student worship the next night. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And I haven't stopped coming since. I've come every single week. And it's just really cool when you walk in the door. Everyone is excited when there's new people, because like you said, we are a pretty small group of people. We're growing, but anytime a new face walks in that door, there are people coming up to you to find out who you are, where you're coming from, and kind of what your story is, just because we love new people and getting to know some diverse students. So I just felt immediately at home there. I've been a leader for the past year, I mentioned in my sermon. I do some more community building activities. I led our freshman Bible study last semester, which was a fun opportunity. And then right now I'm doing craft and board game nights, which is really a fun passion of mine. Because we go out into the community a lot. We do service learning opportunities. We do our meal, which brings a lot of people in. But I really like leading some events that allow us to have fun experiences of the group of us that is there, and then people that are newer have fun places to come and just hang out. So we do crafts and we chat, and we do board games and we chat. So you just get to know people a lot better, which is really fun. So I love LCM. Yeah.
Thanks. So questions that you all have about the ministry, or those of you that raised your hands, your connections to the ministry, if you'd share your stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to affirm what you're doing. Our granddaughter was at the U, and this is a number of years ago now, and not that many. She was approached at the student union by what I would call an alternative spirituality group. And she showed some interest, and she told me about it, and I got concerned about what was going on. So I called Pastor Katie, actually. She was gone, but then she called me back, which I appreciate very much, the contact, and told me some steps that our granddaughter could take. And so that was really helpful for me, and I think for our granddaughter as well. And she did end up with a friend going to Grace Lutheran a few times, and she's not at the U anymore. But I think one of the issues with the growing numbers is that I think a lot of students who are there on campus are from the Twin City area, and they have their own churches already. Many of them, whether they go or not, I don't know.
Right.
But the opportunities are there. But I think I really appreciate the communication from Pastor Katie and her office and her other people. It was very helpful to me.
Great. So great to hear you show it.
She was taking care of an anxious grandpa.
Yeah, also for parents, grandparents. Yeah, it means a lot.
Yeah,
it really does. And Kate's amazing at you know, that outreach in a really helpful way, I think, than a come at you kind of way. Yeah. Yeah. Other stories or your experiences with campus ministry. We'd love to hear your connections, whatever place in life, the connections have happened for you. Anybody? Yeah. Oh, or in back, then we'll come back.
I'm also an LCM member. I'm not a leader, but I've been going for 2 years now. Couldn't say enough good things about it. Fantastic community. I can assure you that everything that they're saying up there is absolutely true. There couldn't be enough opportunities to go out into the community and do things, connect with other churches on campus to do things, meet people. There's learning opportunities to go out in the community and learn about social justice issues or anything like that, history of Minnesota. Retreats to go on, fall and summer. They did a spring break trip to Ireland to go learn over there. Plenty of opportunities for everybody to get together, and it's fantastic.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Did any of you students go on the trip?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? This is really a pretty amazing experience, and for a small group organization to be able to do this is really neat. So I'll let you tell a little about it. No, you're good. If you're excited, I'm glad.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was such a great experience. But yeah, there was 18 of us, including Pastor Kate and then one of our staff members. We went to Northern Ireland. We went to this Christian-based conflict resolution center called Corrymeela. And we spent the week splitting up our time between learning from them and the experiences that they had and the training that they have in mediation, in peace facilitation and conflict resolution, and then also exploring Ireland and getting to connect with the people and learn about their history and learn about the troubles and the kind of civil rights movement that they had going on. And it was very, very powerful. A lot of what they went through is very deeply rooted, and you could really see a lot of those remnants throughout the people. And we had lots of opportunity to learn directly from people. And yeah, I mean, if anyone has any more questions, I could go on and on. It was an amazing experience.
Was the conflict primarily religious conflict, Catholic, Protestant?
Yes. So it like originated almost solely based on religion. Way back when the kings were going through the Reformation, and there was no longer Catholic kings, they became Protestant kings. Yeah, and so there's this like religious unrest, and they tried to fix it, and it kind of just led to like coexisting, but in a very divisive way, very secluded way still. And then after the civil rights movement in America started, it kind of sparked them to go through something similar of, okay, we're very divided. We've got a lot of like inequities here. How can we fix this and change this? And unfortunately, it took a very violent turn for many number of years. And so it grew from being just a religious problem to more of a just neighbor versus neighbor kind of problem.
Other questions about Ireland or the trip?
Thank you for being willing to take the risk of
Yes.
going on a trip like that. It's not always easy.
No, it was not, but it is, I don't know, I believe it's very powerful work, and it's very very similar to kind of the foundation that has been built for me personally in LCM, of having people and leaders and a community that can hold you up so that you can be brave and you can go out and do those hard things to hopefully try and make the world a little bit better in your time here. So, yeah.
Did you have a question earlier? Another question?
No, I was just.
Okay. Yeah.
How are all your activities funded?
Oh, yeah. How are the ministry basically being funded? Yeah, so there is some money that comes in from the synod, not a lot, and then various donations, some grant funding that I know Kate works on, things like a trip like this. You all did a lot of fundraising ahead of time. There may have even been a few grants. I'm not sure if Kate was able to get any grant money for that trip or not. But yeah, working through all those different routes to support the ministry. Yeah. And all of you, really, it's the congregations, ELCA, often congregations around the Twin Cities for our ministry here that really do support a lot of the work that happens at Lutheran Campus Ministry. I know Kate is currently working on thinking longer term, how to keep the ministry sustained in maybe a little more concrete way, or less fluctuating way, and thinking through how that might, how would we do that with longer term sustaining gifts or endowment types of things. So work is going on in those areas. Yeah. Comments, questions? Yeah.
What Kate was talking about with the performance stress and it being a little different in this generation. Does anyone want to talk about that?
Sure, I can start out and then I can let you all explain too. I'm actually faculty at the University of Minnesota. And well, the nationwide issue you've probably heard about is mental health issues for our young folks, any folks, but definitely in our younger populations. And then, yeah, the performance anxiety, stress, needing to be perfect, really. And what that comes out of, I don't know exactly, but this high level need for perfectionism and to perform well and to do your best, and the stress that comes with that. And I also noticed taking on a lot, whether that's lots of school activities, lots of activities within the university setting, or students with many other demands, sometimes family, sometimes helping support a family, parents, grandparents, depending on, their social structure that they're in. It's very different from, I feel like my college years, which were a long time ago. But there is so many competing demands. And then I think this perfectionism piece that we've maybe structured in our society where you have to do well. I don't know, what are your thoughts from your angle? Sorry, go ahead.
Or something to do with social media too, because it's like more out there.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's different from the previous generation.
I think it's certainly a piece of it. Yeah, it's a different world. Maybe you all have comments that you've noticed, or
the social media piece is interesting. I think you're more exposed to what everyone else has going on. I'm on LinkedIn now, and I have friends that have internships for not this summer, but next, who are in business. And so you can just see what other people have going on. I'm a double major. I'm also taking ASL, not because I need the language requirement, but just extra because why? I don't know. I like it. Yeah. You heard in my sermon, maybe. If not, you're going to hear it in a minute. I work 2 jobs. I'm in another classroom. I'm in the process of going on call for one of my jobs, and I'm already applying for another because I don't know how to not have 3 jobs at a time. Yeah, I was raised in a very go household, and that's totally fine. My parents had excellent values that they raised me with. But now I'm in a urban college where everyone else is doing that too. So comparison is inevitable, and social media aids in that. So that's what I have to say. I don't know if you guys have extra.
Yeah, so I work I'm in the School of Nursing, and there are times a lot of our students will be asking me, do I need to work through the summer? Do I need a CNA job? Do I need to be doing internships? And my response is, if you want to, these are your college years, right? So how many more times are you going to have that summer free? And maybe, you know, who knows what you're gonna decide to do, but if it's really important for you to go hiking this summer and work in a state park, go do it. That's really an important part of your development as well. You've got a lot of years to continue to develop in your career. And who knows, hiking and wherever, or whatever it is you choose to do, that's a part of your whole person too that makes you good in whatever it is you choose to do in your career. So I think sometimes we get too focused in pushing our students, like, you know, you really need to strive for this. We're a big R1 research university. You know, there's some of that mixed in there too, of striving to think about graduate school or think about the next whatever academic thing you might do, or in the business world, what's going to set you up. And, you know, I think some of it is on us too as faculty to help, you know, put it in context a little bit and help students evaluate, think what they want to do, even in that academic side of it.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, absolutely.
You're sat down and I was realizing that I'm more well-rounded than just my work. But I want to say that the students at LCM and Pastor Kate are constantly pushing me to take a load off. Like Carol was saying, there are so many more opportunities. And I'm so grateful to be in a community that is checking me to be like, do you need to apply for a third job? That feels a little excessive to me. And so we're all doing it, but we're also all holding each other accountable. And I think that that's a really neat part of having other things to do, LCM being one of them. But it's a really neat group of people too. So yeah.
Bounce off of what Emma said about LCM, and what Kate said we've kind of worked really hard to curate a culture in LCM of being able to just show up. Like that's it. You come as you are, and there will be people there welcoming you and probably offering you food or candy or something. And you can just show up as you are, and that is so rare to find in such a big university where we are in this hustle culture. To just be able to come and say, you know what, I had a bad week, and have people say that's okay, like just sit down, drink some tea, we'll go worship, and like you can talk if you need to, I'm here. Like it's just indescribable, and it's, in my experience, it's very hard to find that kind of culture.
Other questions, comments? Yeah.
How many other religious organizations are you in competition with?
I honestly don't know, a lot.
Like I think there's a lot of ministries on campus. It's just such a big campus. Yeah, there's a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. I really don't know the number. And you'll see folks out on street corners at various times. Yeah, there's definitely a different presence and visibility, as all of you are as well.
Sorry, I didn't point up here.
No, it's good. Great leaders.
I have a friend who had never gone to church before and just started coming a couple of weeks ago, because of the queer affirming nature of our group on campus. And so I will say there's a lot we are in competition with, but there's also a lot of people that come after being at one of those, and it's just so drastically different because they feel accepted here. And I'm not gonna put down other religious groups that they're not accepting, because I'm sure that they totally are, and people have great experiences. But as someone who, one of my best friends is really having a great time here, because she's been hurt by the church before, I think that we have a unique thing going for us. So
think no. Yeah.
How can congregations support or help with this ministry
Yeah, well, one,
besides money,
yeah, I know, I was just gonna tell you one tangible thing.
but including that?
Yeah. So the Be Fed program has really grown. And volunteers bring soup on those Tuesdays. And so that's sort of a real tangible thing that can be super helpful. I think usually it's usually around 50 or so. Anyway, Kate has it all figured out. If anybody's ever interested in making soup, that's a real tangible thing. I think.
Could refer people. If you want to say something about that.
Oh, yeah. The other thing too is if you're aware of students coming up through your congregation or wherever, that might be coming to the University of Minnesota or any, of our public institutions, referring them to the campus ministers, is another nice way, or letting them know that campus ministry is there on that campus, is another really good way to get the word out. I mean, you never, it's one more voice. I think there's also the big celebration we do, which is really fun. It's a fundraiser type thing. I'll just be honest about that. But the fall, I want to say gala, but it's not quite called that. It's they do it at Kaufman Union, and just a really nice evening of sharing with students, other folks involved in the ministry. Again, it is a fundraising event. I won't shy away from that. But mingling with students, other folks who've been a part of campus ministry like me from years ago, that kind of thing. That's nice. Just again, the camaraderie, I think, is great. And you all do a year-end celebration. I know folks are invited to that, and it's always a nice way to celebrate the students leaving the ministry and going out into the world. Yeah, do you guys think of other things that I might have missed?
Prayer for ministry.
Prayer always, yeah. Prayer, yeah.
Do you have any interfacing with Hope Lutheran on campus?
Yeah, actually, I'm a member of University Lutheran Church of Hope. Yes, we are quite connected. Grace is where on that side of campus, or in that area of campus where you're actually physically housed, the offices and such. And then occasionally there are meetings, gatherings over at Hope. Kate is quite present at Hope as well, just because of our proximity to the university. And we also have a kind of a small cadre of students that worship with us on Sunday as well. So I'd say lots of connections. Our pastor is very connected with Kate in the LCM ministry as well. And I happen to be on the board of LCM right now, but we typically always have a congregation member as a liaison to Lutheran Campus Ministry, just because of that close proximity and relationship. So yeah.
Or 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
Supposed to be about, so officially, so if there's just one last question or any last comment, yeah.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Sorry to excuse my voice. My name is Celine, I'm the youth director here, but I just wanted to make an announcement for all of you guys here. As someone who went through an LCM program, that if you guys know what college your grandkids, their friends, whatever are going to, like, you can come talk to me and I will help you get that person referred through the Lumen network. So it's not just at the U of M. Andrew and I are students from UND's LCM. It's actually part of how we met and how we got connected to our church. But what they will do is they'll take that contact information that you guys have of that high school student that you love so much, and they will send out an email to them and invite them into that space. And I know that I would not have gone through my campus ministry had I not been invited. And so like, that's a huge step. And that was, I probably wouldn't be a youth director, honestly, if I hadn't been invited into my campus ministry. So you guys know these people, and that's really the best way to get them connected into campus ministry. So if you have questions about it, I'm happy to get you connected with Lumen, especially if they're going to the event, because as we heard, that's a fantastic program. And we want them to have that community that all of these students talked about. So.
Thank you. Yes, LCMs all around the country. So. And there's information on the back table. Help yourselves. And again, just thank you so much for your gracious welcome for all of us and your generosity and prayers and hospitality. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
And now I gotta get my preacher.